The first time I played guitar in church, I was so nervous. Worship and singing songs and gathering together for church had always been a place for me where I'd felt like I'd been able to hear God speak to me and I'd been able to speak to him in a way that had changed my life. And a lot of the guys who played instruments and led worship, they were just inspiring characters who just loved Jesus and served the church. I started playing first of all in the youth group, and when I'd played a couple of times, a service came up where they handed over the evening session to the youth group. So the youth band was there to play. The night before, I was so nervous. I barely slept because there was a moment in this one song where the rest of the band dropped out and I would keep the rhythm going on acoustic guitar, and then the singer would come in and then the whole band would come back in. And I just about did it in practice, but sure enough, during the service, the whole band dropped out and it came to me and I totally messed it up. I got the timing all wrong, I hit a wrong chord, and I spent the rest of the time of worship with my skin feeling like it was on fire as my face burned bright red. I then went and sat down, and I'd just been so stressed out and exhausted by the whole experience that I promptly fell asleep during the youth pastor's sermon. After I'd been playing in church for a couple of years, I remember I was playing in practice one time, and one of my good friends, an incredible musician, played loads of different instruments, called Lindsay, came up to me after the rehearsal. Lindsay was a great musician, a kind man, and he's also blind. And he came over to me and he said, "Josh, when I hear you play, it just sounds like you're pressing the strings too hard. Like you're just trying too hard. You just need to relax." I'd always felt like there was something a little bit off or wrong about how I was playing and how I was signing. And it almost felt like sometimes the harder I tried, the worse it got. And I just realized that I was actually pressing the strings so hard. I was starting to bend the tuning of the guitar a little bit in my nervousness. And when I took it on board and relaxed, not only did it sound better, but I just enjoyed the experience and felt like I was able to join in worship with everyone. That one little conversation, that positive moment of just speaking encouragement, changed me as a musician and changed my whole experience. And I think about all the encounters that people have had with Jesus so far in John. The healings, the teachings, the conversations that people have had, and just how life-changing they would have been, that one little conversation. Well, today we're reading John chapter 11, verses 1 up to verse 16. And it doesn't get more dramatic than this. Jesus is away from Jerusalem, where people are starting to plot to kill him. And then word comes to him through two sisters of a close friend of his that his friend Lazarus is about to die. He's incredibly sick. Jesus responds by saying, "This sickness will not end in death. No, it is for God's glory, so that God's Son may be glorified through it." And at that moment you think, wow, Jesus, the all-powerful Messiah, heaven's vision on earth, God made flesh, would just roll up to Lazarus and lift him up and he would be healed, like so many other people in this gospel were healed. But Jesus delays. Jesus has a conversation with his disciples. And even as he heads out, one of his disciples, Thomas, says, "Oh, let us go that we may die with him." Because Jesus has told them that Lazarus has already died because of the delay. And the disciples are still just missing the point of what Jesus was about. Why does Jesus delay? I mean, I get that the power and the beauty of seeing someone raised from the dead would be life-changing for so many people involved. Yet it would also be scarring. It also seems like he deliberately leaves people to walk through grief and pain. And that doesn't sound very Christ-like. Jesus is totally confident of God's timing in all of this. Jesus is totally confident of what's going to happen and what the outcome will be the other side. But Jesus is comfortable with pain. That word glory we've been looking at is a sense of seeing the face of God, seeing the character of God, of knowing the tangible presence of a God who is holy and loving and gracious. And Jesus is not afraid. He's not afraid of what might happen. He's not afraid of death. But he's also not afraid to step right into the middle of all of this. He's not afraid to return to the area where there are people plotting his death. He's not afraid to follow God's timing and walk through grief and pain. You might feel in this season like God is delaying, like he has it in his power to answer your prayer and he's just waiting, or he's just not listening. But maybe the prayer today, as we read this beautiful story, is, God, how are you showing me who you are through this pain and this journey that we are on together? I pray that as you ask God that question in his gentle, patient, loving way, he would just show you how he has been teaching you and leading you in the midst of all that we're going through right now.